chat. Here is a question. Can men and women really be friends? We'll find out from the 200 people that were surveyed. I obviously can't English.
Can men and women be friends? I asked 200 of my Instagram followers to try and find the answer to this question, because I think it's a really important question to answer. Not only because I've confessed twice myself.
I think maybe.
I'm sorry, women.
Okay, let me just give you my stance on that. Here's my opinion about whether or not men and women can be friends. I think the answer is yes, but there's gotta be some level of boundary, right? I feel like both sides gotta be respectful with one another. Try not to be flirty, and if you're being flirty, you're kind of opening doors that should not be open, or you're going to be opening Pandora's box. Because if something happens and you two become a couple, and then all of a sudden you don't want to be a couple anymore, oftentimes being friends after that again just doesn't happen or work as well. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it just doesn't go well.
But I also hope that making this survey will help us understand why friendships between men and women sometimes end up the way they are, and how we can prevent the canon event of guys confessing and ruining the friendship.
No, for real, so many guys that you talk to, and every single time they always hurt you, and you come crying to me.
For the first question,
I've been friends with my ex, it was fine. Yeah, you're the exception, not the rule. Until he started dating my bestie, and then he wanted me back. And that's kind of where most of the problems stem from. When you have a history with someone and then you're trying to move on, but you still have them in your life, chances are you're likely to come back to them in some fuck degree or another. But that's just me.
asked people how much they agree from 1 to 10 that they are physically attracted to their friends of the preferred sex. This is what the distribution looked like for all respondents, with a mean agreement to the question of 5.93, which is slight agreement. But if you reveal the genders behind each choice, you will see that people who decided to put 10 was basically all men. 75% of people who responded and said, "I strongly agree that I'm attracted to my friends of preferred sex," were dudes. Some of you might have seen this coming. Straight women were slightly below the average of 5.9 in their agreement. Theirs was a bit lower at 5.52. For straight men, it was more than an entire point higher. It was 6.95, which is significant. This is the significance test that I ran, and I got a p-value of 0.003. The second question I asked was if people agreed that men and women can be just friends, close friends, or best friends. According to women, they ranked that they could be just friends with men at an agreement of 8.55 out of 10, close friends at 7.7 out of 10, and best friends at 6.8 out of 10. For men, they said that they could be just friends with women with agreement at 7.7 out of 10, close friends at 6.7 out of 10, and best friends at 5.7 out of 10. The astute among you will notice that men were almost an entire point of agreement lower than women for all three of these.
Well, yeah, I feel like that makes sense. If you're a dude and you're attracted to a chick, right, you're more inclined to pursue some form of relationship with the person of interest. Is that crazy to say? I know women can make a lot of male friends. Okay, I feel like there's a difference between finding a friend attractive and being attracted to said friend. I see what you mean, but I feel like there's also a level of attraction to the person that you find attractive. If that makes any sense, right? How do I word this? This is kind of new grounds in expanding my explanation and vocabulary. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I'm totally down with the clown for it. Like, sorry, I don't want ugly friends. Well, what's wrong with having ugly friends? You know, I thought it was all about personality, right? I know some of you would say that it's not always about looks, which, gonna be honest here, there is a degree of truth. Looks is what gets you in the door, but your personality is what helps you stay in the house. No.
Pretty interesting. The third question I asked was, did you consider confessing, or have you confessed to a friend before? The results here are what you'd expect, but the numbers might be more drastically different than you'd expect.
I'm expecting the men that have higher consider confessing to friends.
Expect them to be. Around 60% of women said they considered confessing,
Oh.
while only 35% of women actually ended up going through and confessing.
Shit.
As for the men, 80% of men considered confessing. Now,
Yo,
personally, I wasn't
hey.
expecting 80%, I was expecting 100%. To the 20% of men who said no, why are we lying? And for the percentage of men that actually confessed, it was 65%. To put
God
things into
damn.
perspective, the percentage of men who actually confessed was higher than the percentage of women who even considered confessing.
We listen and we don't judge.
Okay, so maybe you could have guessed
We
that
listen
men were going
and
to
we're calling
confess
a
more, but
judge.
why is that? I want to start by talking about one explanation for how crushes and infatuation actually form in the first place. I came across this video about Stendhal's explanation for why people fall in love a while ago. First, you obviously have to have some sort of mutual attraction, like you both have to find each other conventionally attractive. And the survey
True.
says this is broadly true for both straight men and women, but more so for men than women. But beyond that, he says that in order for people to fall in love, especially in the context of short-term
Judge if we
infatuation
don't
like
listen.
a crush, there needs to be a correct balance of hope to doubt. You need to have hope that this person is someone within your reach, that they might plausibly like you back. But you also need to slightly doubt if they like you, because it's like more sexy and mysterious, I guess, than if they're constantly just telling you that they're in love with you. So
I feel like in the sense of having that slight doubt that they're not interested in you is more so a defense mechanism for the ego. Not sure if that makes any sense to y'all, but in layman's term, if I think that she's not entirely interested in me, then I can't exactly have my heart broken, and then I just move on to the next, you know? But easier said than done. We listen and we call the cops.
Yes, we all like the chase to some extent. Pickup artists call this the push-pull method. I think there are three theories as to why this male-female friendship might create a hope-to-doubt ratio that causes guys to get a crush and confess. The first is that men are less aware of their emotions than women, especially at the age of 18 to 19, which was the average age of people responding to my survey. This is true at least for me because I don't talk about my feelings enough, especially with guy friends. Because unless you're drunk, you'll never say something intimate like, "I love you, bro," or talk about your feelings in a constructive way. So if you happen to be close to your friend who's a girl and you happen to open up, this is much more of an intimate step for you as a guy compared to girls who might talk about their emotions a lot more often with their friends. That
I just want to say quickly that while that is true that not a lot of guys are really in touch with their emotions, especially at a young age, especially to their other guy friends, I'm so glad I'm picky with my friends. I can admit when I appreciate the homies, okay? I can perfectly be comfortable in my own skin and sexuality and say, hey man, I love you like family. All right, I really appreciate you. You know, you've been good to me. I just want you to know that I really appreciate your company and your presence and your opinion. You know, I feel like more people should do that often and not feel weirded out. But that's just me. Maybe it's because I'm just too in tune with how I feel, and then I'm very picky. And you know, it helped me tell you guys how I feel. So when I feel like I appreciate you guys because you guys done so much for me in such a short time, you know, it's not that hard for me to tell you guys how I feel.
intimacy for you as a guy might lead you to think, my relationship with this woman friend isn't the same as it is for my other guy friends.
Of course,
there's something
because
more at play. The second theory
you're
I
not
have
trying to
is for
smash
some
the
guys,
homies.
especially if they've never been in
If
a
you're straight.
relationship, you're friends to begin with this person. There's an element of compatibility here you're not going to find somewhere else. If you have a friend of the preferred sex who shares the same niche passion that you have, or you have great chemistry or similar senses of humor, and you couple that with the emotional intimacy from my previous theory, this gives you the hope that there is something more than friendship to hold on to, because you have these elements of compatibility and intimacy that are unique to you because you don't talk about these intimate emotions elsewhere. For my final theory, I think this is the most obvious one, looks are a much larger part of attraction for men than
Yes.
women. One survey respondent
Yeah, I'm tired of fucking saying. Nah, actually, I never said this shit, but I'm tired of people saying that looks don't matter when it comes to finding someone attractive. They always say that it's all about personality, and I say this time and time again. I don't care if this is some fucking black pill looks maxing bullshit. It is true throughout human history that looks play a major factor in a person's interest. It's like, I don't gotta fucking tell you this shit. You, like I said, you go look back in human history from the dawn of time up until now. People are always going to be attracted to those that deem to be conventionally attractive, right? Are there exceptions to the rules? Duh. But let's not pretend like looks aren't in play, like aren't a contributing factor, because it is. It certainly is. And as someone who's been on the receiving end of people being favorable towards me because of looks, right? It's disheartening, to say the least, because there's no equal play. Now, I think, me personally, I'm average, but I have had people being favorable towards me in the looks department when I have other friends that aren't as favorable in their eyes. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. I feel bad for them, but I can't deny biology and human settings, the factory default and shit. Looks play more of a role. You could definitely get a lot. You could for certain get away with a lot of things if you look good compared to not looking good. And we've seen that time and time again. A good example would be those serial killer edits that you see on TikTok, right? Some conventionally attractive murderer would be in the court, and then you have these super crazy fans being there, be like, no, he did nothing wrong, free him, like, oh my god, I wish he would kill me, or something like that. Versus if somebody that looks like a Redditor did the same thing, then, you know, everybody's gonna be like, you gross, lock his ass up forever. And in fact, let's execute him. put him in the electric chair. Yeah, that's fair. If you're broken ugly, you've got nothing. Yeah, you've definitely got a bad spawn RNG for that one. Oh, like Luigi Maggioni. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. That is a perfect example, to be honest. Now I feel like that guy is a little bit different because there are people that genuinely agree with the ideology of what he did. But I'm talking about something similar to more to like Ted Bundy level, if that makes sense.
And as far to note that men are more likely to want to be more than just friends because of societal patriarchy. Men are conditioned to think of women as objects of desire. I never really thought about it like this, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I think even in children's media, there's a lot of over-sexualization that imprints onto your brain when it's in the most crucial stages of development. Social media, YouTube thumbnails, Instagram models, and the accessibility of adult content are cooking men's brains when they're like 13 years old. And to put things into perspective,
let's also not ignore the other side of things. You have men dealing with consuming a lot of adult content, but then on the other side of that, that's the same as consuming adult content. For women, it would be receiving a lot of attention from men and just guys in general. You know, it's the same thing, two sides of the same coin. Women online really do love the attention and would probably do almost anything just to acquire that, which is pretty fucked up. Now, I'm not saying that guys don't feel this way or don't do this, but again, if you look at shit, I don't know if I would say there's data, but I definitely can say from observing a lot of these people, it's very noticeable that, like I said, men consume more adult content, but women consume more of the online attention from said men. So it's a vicious cycle in a way, I guess.
Some surveys found that up to 75% of male teenagers said they've watched adult content before. And to the 25% who said they didn't, why are we lying? I don't want to exempt Schooners from any responsibility here, but the more I think about it, I think the positioning of how men and women ought to act and what the media shows to impressionable young teens definitely plays a huge role in terms of how we understand affectionate young men. And beyond what you see on social media, if you have been
guys,
close to a friend of the
we've all
preferred
gooned
sex,
before.
your friends or your parents are almost always instigating, which I think for emotionally inexperienced teens definitely feeds into your hope ratio while preserving some of the doubt because you're supposed to be just friends. These three go in combination as solid theories for why men confess more. And as for the 35% of women who decided to confess, I don't really have an explanation for that because I'm not a woman, but, you know, comment something down below.
You're such a good friend. I don't want to ruin the friendship. You're like a brother to me.
Do you guys all have the same script or something?
Should you confess? I mean, could it really be...
Oh god. This is gonna sound pretty fucked up, but oftentimes when they want to keep you around as a friend, they just like the shit that you give them, be it attention or resources or whatever the fuck. I'm saying that a little bit from experience and witnessing other people dealing with it. Just cut them off. Just cut them off at that point. You're wasting your time. It's never gonna change.
That bad. Yes, as a 2-time offender, I can promise you that you should not do this. But what I learned from those experiences is maybe you should confess, just not at the point where you're miserably denying that you like this person and it's been bottled up for a long time. I think you should say it sooner rather than later, because sometimes you can just confess and when you say it out loud, it sounds stupider than it actually is, and you get the hope ratio away, you guys can talk it out, and it'll be fine. But there's a reason you rarely see this. I think it's with noble intentions that guys, or at least why I didn't do this in the past, is we assume that this secret will never see the light of day. We won't have to risk even a little bit of awkwardness if we just never tell them. And then it bottles up, and then somehow, some way we eventually tell them. So probably a better idea to say things sooner rather than later. Now, I went over for 2 when I tried this move, but I think confessing is doomed to fail anyways. For example, one survey respondent shared that my brother absolutely nuked a friend group and dated a friend, and it lasted literally 2 weeks. A classic move. I think the problem with this is a lot of the bottled up infatuation is an idealized version of what you want this person to be instead of who they actually are. You're imagining what they would be like as a romantic partner, but your expectations for how you interact day to day are still as a friend, so you don't get pissed off at them for relationshipy things. But then you actually try it, and then your expectations don't match up with how you're now interacting with these new expectations of how you want them to act in a relationship. So you're ultimately left disappointed, and it doesn't work out. Another respondent had this to say: I think attraction doesn't impact relationships, but real feelings do. When my homeboy gets drunk, he'll often say whatever's on his mind, ranging from, I love you more than anything in this world, or just complimenting my appearance. His remarks about my appearance are a lot less concerning than his emotional remarks. While one can lead to the other, if someone genuinely doesn't have feelings for another person, it doesn't always lead to impacting a friendship. Additionally, I believe friendships can survive feelings. Okay, so in my opinion, I think this is just a time bomb waiting to explode.
I don't know what the rest of what he's gonna say, right, in terms of that comment, but that is true. It is a time bomb waiting to explode, dude. How do I explain this? How do I explain this, man? Feelings. I can tell you this: it's definitely not my strong suit in explanation without going on a fucking tangent or a rant on how things just aren't as they seem. It is quite literally an entire gray zone. It's not always black and white. Thank you, video, for reminding me that I'm single. I have to go find the from now. BRB check. Damn, bro, I haven't gotten a maiden in ages. Time to drink my problems away. I love you more than anything in this world is crazy. Yeah, that is pretty strong. That is pretty strong to say to someone that you're not in a relationship with. Well, I'm just gonna say it. Whoever submitted that friendship is not gonna go far in the future, not unless the guy finds someone else, like so finds another person that would be his partner. But oh god, this whole thing's a fucking mess.
I made the survey like 3 months ago, so I hope y'all are still friends. I guess the simplest answer is the correct one here. I guess talk about your emotions sooner rather than later, and things won't blow up in your face as long as you're...
I greet my friends like that every morning. Oh, hey, Val, how you doing? I love you more than anything in this world. And they just give them the dead-ass stare like this. just the silence is deafening. Just don't say anything else. Just continue looking at them until they leave.
You're mature and kind individuals. Now there's one last survey response that I want to highlight. A 32-year-old male, I've no clue how this guy found this survey because I put it on my Instagram, but like, damn, just read these responses. I'm physically attracted to some of my friends who are of the genders I'm strongly agree. In a male-female friendship, the male is more likely than the female to count. Strongly agree. It is possible for men and women to be best friends. Strongly disagree.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered confessing?
This 32-year-old is fucking cooking. He is so right.
To him? Yes. Have you ever actually confessed? Yes. Any miscellaneous thoughts concerning the survey/personal experience? I miss her. Damn.
It did not go well for her.
Hope you're okay, bro.
No, he's
Anyways,
not
that's
okay.
all from me for now. Like, obviously, this isn't like a real survey.
This may sound like it's out of the blue, right? But the whole incel epidemic, you could easily fix that by having the guy be in a loving relationship. You put them in a loving relationship, all of a sudden they're not an incel anymore. They would want to do better for themselves most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, most of the time. They would want to do better for them. They would want to do better for themselves. They would want to, have a family, to do better for the family. I like to argue 7 or 8 times out of 10, most guys that are categorized as incel just really want to be in a loving and caring relationship. But because of the whole dating dynamic and how fucked we are and the whole inflation kind of thing, it's really hard to find genuine love in today's age. It's very difficult. Now, I mean, you can make the argument that the women that are poisoning the well, and I'm not saying that guys are not doing the same thing, right? But we're just, in the context here, I want to believe that the women that are poisoning the well online are the minority rather than the majority. I really do. I'm on that cope. I'm on that hopium. All right. But I really hope that's the case, because I would love to be in a loving, caring relationship and not have to worry about whether or not my partner's gonna leave me for another dude because apparently I'm not the image that they had in mind. I just think it's kind of fucked up that shit happens. But, it's whatever. Life goes on. So do you. Don't get hung up on one person. It doesn't really benefit you. And chances are they probably don't even care about you, or let alone remember or are hung up on you. So, a little quick PSA on that.
Survey that would pass in any peer-reviewed capacity, because I did not randomly select these people. The age is basically people 18 to 20. And also, one survey respondent correctly noted that this is mostly applicable to heterosexual relationships. I'm not LGBTQ, so I don't really know what those dynamics would look like, but comment below if you want to see something like that, or comment any other video ideas, because I want to become a niche internet micro-celebrity, and I don't want to give myself the excuse that I'm out of video ideas to stop making videos. So thanks for watching, like, and subscribe.
He's so real for that. Maybe I should do something similar. But yeah, I just don't think oftentimes men and women can really be friends the moment you open the floodgates of feelings. Can it happen? Of course. I'm not saying it's impossible. But it's not always an easy road to deal with.